We are grateful to Mr. President for fulfilling his obligation under Article 67 and making himself available to this House and presenting that apt a message on the state of the country. Mr. Speaker, you would realize that Mr. President spent less time in talking about the record that he came to meet. Indeed, we are hoping that in coming days, the ministers of state of the various sectors will truly get us to understand what His Excellency the President inherited, so that at the end of his tenure, we'll be able to judge from where he took, what he has added on or subtracted. Then we'll be able to judge that sincerely Mr. President has moved this country forward or backward. I think that will be a fair request to make. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, I have listened to some debates already, and I listened to my good brother who just concluded and sat down. There's one truth, that yes, he has 60 ministers. Indeed, he hasn't even got 60 ministers yet. And there's a government machinery, advisors, etc., that go on. And you know that the appointments made so far are not even up to 50. And so if you had a government machinery that was run by over 300 men, and today you have a president that has not appointed up to 50, there's no way you can compare these sizes. And so being a House of Records, I think that we should be truthful to what the record really is. Mr. Speaker, in all these debates about the macroeconomic indicators, etc., there's one truth. Is it not true that the past government left this country with $721 billion Ghana cedis debt? Is it not true? That is true. Is it not true that President Mahamad's government in 2017 left $250,000 in the sinking fund? That's true. $50 million in the sinking fund. It is true. Is it not true that when Akufo-Addo government was leaving, cocoa sector rose alone accrued a debt of 21 billion Ghana cedis? That's true. Again, is it not true that when the Akufo-Addo government was leaving power, it left a cocoa sector debt of 32.5 billion Ghana cedis, and that by September, we will be due to pay 9 billion Ghana cedis out of that? Is it not true that production of cocoa actually reduced from the expected 850,000 metric tons to under 500,000 metric tons, and that we were not able to pay the forward sales of cocoa that we made to the tune of 333,000 metric tons that we are yet to pay and had to roll over, and that this year that payment is due? And that, things being equal, if the production remains under 500,000 metric tons, then it means that we will not even be able to sell any proper cocoa, any proper quantities of cocoa to rake in the needed revenue we need for this country. So, Mr. Speaker, some of these, catch the eye of the Speaker first, leader. So, Mr. Speaker, when you have these facts, this set of facts.
Honorable member, take it easy. Honorable
friend Doc, I was actually enjoying his debate, and then he made a point whether it is not true that under His Excellency Akufo-Addo's administration, cocoa production was under 500 metric tons. It's not true. What the truth is, we did not hit the 1 million tons as expected, but it was never under 500 metric tons. No. So specific. Well,
so honorable Minority Chief Whip. What was it?
So my point is.
What was it?
The fact is that we. Are you listening? Will you listen? Are you listening? It was 530 metric tons. That was it. That was. I'm spot on. So, Doug, who I respect, should just I mean, navigate properly and stay on course. That one, Doc, you got it wrong. I beg you.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity again. My leader, respected leader, is not right. He's not truthful. I've been in the Committee of Agri for the past 4 years, and so I'm endowed with the figures. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, the actual production is 435,000 metric tons. That's what we recorded last year. So I'm just being generous and diplomatic by saying under 500,000 metric tons. And we had a bill out of it of 330,000, in fact, 333,000 metric tons to pay, which we couldn't pay. And it has been rolled over for this year. Mr. Speaker, is it not true that we had an energy sector debt of 68 billion? That's true. Mr. Speaker, is it not true that the ESLA collections from the energy sector amounted to about some $44 billion Ghana cedis, and yet we have a debt of 68 to pay? These are facts. And Mr. Speaker, is it not also true that in 2017, the exchange rate of cedi to dollar was $1 to 4.2 Ghana cedis, and that today, as at the time President Akufo-Addo was leaving office, it was almost $1 to 16 Ghana cedis. Be conservative if you even want to say 15. But these are the facts of the economic indices. And so let's not pretend that we can use macroeconomic jargons to bamboozle the people that we represent. This is the state of the economy. Let's admit to it and see how we can all speak to the script of resetting this country. Mr. Speaker, the other thing that excited me about His Excellency's message, which I think we must all avert ourselves to, again, is that let's be conscious of this fact, which is that in the last 8 years, this country actually spent, in 7 years actually spent 3 billion Ghana cedis, ring-fencing it to a flagship program in the Ministry of Agriculture called Planting for Food and Jobs. Mr. Speaker, we spent this money, yet year in, year out, inflation of this country has continued to go up, and a chunk of the reason for the country's inflation has always been food price inflation. Mr. Speaker, at the same time, having spent this quantum of money, when last year we had just 7 weeks of drought, Mr. Speaker, all our vulnerabilities was exposed. We were running helter-skelter. We didn't have food stocks. We didn't have any buffers. Our production was on its knees. The Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Finance was panicking, trying to import food into our country. Mr. Speaker, this state of affairs is not positive for our country. That is why I was excited listening to Mr. President outline a number of programs that he intends to roll out to revolutionize the agricultural sector. Mr. Speaker, the President announced the Agriculture for Economic Transformation agenda, which for me is the game changer. Mr. Speaker, I want to invite my colleagues that let's not mock at the program. From what we have gone through as a country, I think that this agenda that Mr. President is proposing is something that we should all subscribe to. In that program, he has 2 major components that excite me. One of them is the Feed Ghana program. Mr. Speaker, under the Feed Ghana program, he is focusing also on grain development. This grain development is not just the production of the grain, but also situating them in agroeconomic enclaves where we will have real production in high volumes. That will not just leave it at production, but there will be supplementary agro-processing of these produce in ways that will allow us to add value to what we produce. Mr. Speaker, because of what is happening globally, you have just read in the news a few days ago that Burkina Faso has issued an ultimatum, in fact, a ban on grain export from Burkina Faso to neighboring countries.
Member, conclude.
Oh, really? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this should tell you that there's a lot of challenge and there's a lot of introspection that we have to do as a country. And so let's work hard in supporting the President's agenda on agricultural transformation for this country. Let's look at the Feed the Ghana program, feed industry program, and I'm particularly excited that the emphasis is on youth and agro-processing. Mr. Speaker, I look forward to the budget where we will have numbers tied to this program and we can come back with an appropriate debate for the various sectors. I thank you very much for the opportunity, and I thank Mr. President for giving us that message of hope in his State of the Nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's now the turn of Honorable Asensubochi.